right, number 8. Bruce owns a business that produces widgets. He must bring in more revenue than the payout in costs in order to turn a profit, right? Remember, profit is how much money you have left after you've paid your costs. It costs $10 in labor and materials to make each of his widgets. His rent each month for his factory is $4,000. He sells each widget for $25. How many widgets does Bruce need to sell each month to make the minimum profit? Okay. So a couple things here. And you can do this with an equation, and that's kind of how I'm going to show it. Some of you guys might be able to kind of just think through the logic of it. All right. But there's two things going on. He's making money when he sells widgets, and he makes $25 for each widget. I'm just going to call the widgets W. So 25 times however many widgets he sells will give you kind of his revenue, right? Or his sales. Okay? Now, I need the revenue to be more than the cost. Okay, so let's think about the cost. It says the cost is $10 for every widget he sells. So every time he makes a widget, right, it costs him $10. But they give you this extra piece of information, the rent. He has to pay $4,000 for rent whether he makes one widget or he makes a million widgets, right? So that's kind of a fixed cost here. And so we need to add that to our cost, that $4,000. Now you might think of that as, look at the equation here. 10 is our slope, our rate of change, right? That's how much we pay for every one more widget we make. The 4,000, that's your y-intercept. Remember, that's kind of like your starting cost, right? You have to, at the beginning of every month, he's got to pay that $4,000. All right, so we want to see kind of how much he has to make the minimum profit. Well, the minimum profit, right, is kind of the break-even point, I should say, is where they're equal to each other. And so if we can figure out where they break even, once we start to sell more widgets than that, that's where we're going to make a profit. So we want to figure out where they're equal, right? Or you could set it up as an inequality if you wanted, and you could say, well, okay, well, where's revenue greater, right? We want the revenue to be bigger than this. That would be an inequality, but it gets you the same thing here. I'm going to start by getting the W by itself, so I subtract 10W, so I can combine these W's, and that gives you 15W equals 4,000. And I shouldn't say equal, we decided to switch it to an inequality, right? Greater than. Then it's 15 times W, so I divide both sides by 15 to get that by itself, right? So now I have W is greater than, grab my calculator, 4,000 divided by 15 is 266.6 repeating. Okay? And so how many widgets does Bruce need to each month to make a profit? Well, he needs to sell more than 266.6, which is 267, right? He needs to sell 267 widgets to make a profit. Again, profit means your revenue is bigger than your costs. It's a good real-world question there for all you future business people. All right, number 9. Emily wants to solve the equation AX minus W equals 3 for W. Which equation shows the result of a correct applied strategy? All right, so first of all, solving for W means get W by itself, and you can notice that in the answer. They all have W by itself. So we want to go through and try to solve this. AX minus W equals 3. I want to get the W by itself. So I'm going to start by getting rid of the AX. So I'm going to subtract AX from both sides. And I got negative W. Don't lose that part. Negative W equals, negative AX plus 3, right? Or you could write 3 minus AX, right? That'd be fine. And notice that that's there, but are we there yet? No, we still got the minus W. So how do we get rid of the minus W? Well, minus W really means minus or negative 1 W. I don't know why I'm saying minus W. I really should be saying negative W. Equals this, okay? So I want to get rid of the negative. And so there's two ways to think about it. You can multiply both sides by negative 1, right? Most of the time when we think about, well, if it's times negative 1, to get rid of it by dividing by negative 1. And if I do it, I have to make sure and do it by everything. And the idea here is that I'm basically going to switch the signs, right? So negative divided by negative becomes a positive, so I've got positive AX, positive 3 divided by negative, right, 1 gives me a negative 3. So I've got W equals AX minus 3. My answer is A. Okay, and so again, we're just walking through the steps. Notice it really didn't matter that it was A and an X, right? Those letters, my steps were still the same. That could have been a number there, and it didn't matter. Okay, so don't get thrown off by that. All right, let's do one more in this video and then take a break here. But number 10. Which equation is equivalent to 7x over 4 minus 3x over 8 equals 11? We have some fractions here, but we don't quite have a common denominator, right? So I'm going to try to do that. How do we get common denominators? Remember, denominators, what's in the bottom of the fraction? 4 and 8. I know if I multiply 4 times 2, that gives me an 8, so I'm going to do that over here. So I've got, again, 7x over 4 minus 3x over 8 equals 11. I want to change this 4 to an 8, so I multiply by 2. If I do it in the bottom, I have to do it in the top. So that's going to give you 14x over 8 minus 3x over 8 equals 11. Now that I have a same denominator, I can kind of subtract the tops. 14x minus 3x equals 11x over 8 equals 11. All right? All of our answers, right, we're not quite matching yet, but we don't have any fractions in our answers, all right? So I want to get rid of this fraction, this 8. To get rid of an 8 in the denominator, right, the opposite or the inverse of dividing is to multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 8. I cancel on this side, and I get 11x equals 11 times 8 is 88. All right? We do have an answer there, right? That's answer B. Just to talk about that, right? B is our answer. If they asked you to solve for x, right, your last step would be to divide by 11, but we can stop there. They ask which equation is equivalent to that. So we can go ahead and stop there for number 10. Hopefully this is helping. We'll try to get some more videos up here for the next 10 questions and keep going there. But please look through that study guide. Please be reviewing. Like I said, I hope this helps.